Haribol. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Padavajaka Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Padavajaka Ashtotar, the Sri Srimad, Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktabinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So I have text 18. Is that correct? Did someone put Prabhupada's book up, please?
Yes, Prabhu, it is correct.
Yes, I know. Vijay, you can do it. Prabhupada's book. Prabhupada's book. Yes, he also reads the verse with us. Thank you. Narayanam namaskritya narang chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamadiriyet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and unto Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha budreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya Bhagavatuttama shloke Bhakti bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord, who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. On this 29th day of August, 2022 in San Diego, a reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 29? No. 26. Sorry, I can't read it here. Chapter 26, text 18. This is all about the hellish planets. So there's no verse, it's just prose. So I'll read it myself. Yas tvihava asam vibhajyashnati yat kinchanopananatam animita panchayagyo vayasa sangstutaha saparatra krimi bhojane nadakadame nipatati tatra shata sahasra yojane krimi kunde krimi bhutaha swayam krimibir eva bhakshyamanaha krimi bhojano yavat apatapahutado nirvesham atmanam yatayate. Okay. Translation. A person is considered no better than a crow if after receiving some food he does not divide it among guests, old men, and children, but simply eats it himself, or if he eats it without performing the 5 kinds of sacrifice. After death, he is put into the most abominable hell, known as Krimi Bhojana. In that hell is a lake 100,000 yojanas, 800,000 miles, wide and filled with worms. He becomes a worm in that lake and feeds on the other worms there, who also feed on him. Unless he atones for his actions before his death, such a sinful man remains in the hellish lake of Krimi Bhojana for as many years as there are yojanas in the width of the lake. So that's 100,000. Long time. Purport. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 3.13, Yagishishtasin aksanto muchante sarvakil bishai bundate tvetvagam papa ye pachantyatmakaranat. The devotees of the Lord are released from all kinds of sins because they eat food which is first offered for sacrifice. Others who prepare food for personal sense enjoyment verily eat only sin. Close quote. All food is given to us by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Eko bahunam yovadadati kaman. The Lord supplies everyone with the necessities of life. Therefore, we should acknowledge His mercy by performing yajña, sacrifice. This is the duty of everyone. Indeed, the sole purpose of life is to perform yajña. According to Krishna, Bhagavad Gita 3.9, we can all chant together if you know it. yagyartat karma non yatra lokoyam karma bandhanaha tadartang karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work done as a sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. Otherwise, work binds one to this material world. Therefore, O son of Kunti, perform your prescribed duties for his satisfaction, and in that way you will always remain unattached and free from bondage. Close quote. If we do not perform yajna and distribute prasadam to others, our lives are condemned. Only after performing yajna and distributing the prasadam to all dependents, children, brahmins, and old men, should one eat. However, one who cooks only for himself or his family is condemned, along with everyone he feeds. After death, he is put into the hell known as Krimi Bhojana. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, we're continuing to hear about different hells and the punishment that accrues for one who violates Krishna's law, Dharma, in various ways. So this verse is all about the feeding others who are dependent on others to be fed. They don't have an independent source of income, or they're raising food themselves. So this, no better than a crow, if one after receiving some food, he does not divide it among guests, old men, and children, but simply eats it himself, or if he eats it without performing the 5 kinds of sacrifice. So who in this modern age does not fit into this category? I mean, except maybe some people in India, or if you understand the need to be unselfish about one's food. So then he's put into this Krimi Bhojana. He says it's most abominable. This is close to the top of the most abominable hells. We've been hearing about them. It's just hair-raising. And who knows about these things? I mean, in the Christian religion, you hear about going to hell and burning, it's hot. But the details? And this is just some of them. This is just a sampling of the different hells. And someone brought up the point, which somehow I never thought about, because there's different kinds of sins that you can perform and get you different hells. But in modern day, I mean, people are performing a huge number of these sins. So do they go to the different hells one after another? Or is there a hell that combines all of these things? Anyway. Dukali Amashashvatam. Krishna says, Mamupeja Puna Janma Dukali Amashashvatam Naptamanti Maha Sangsiddhim Padamangata. That for one who doesn't attain me by going back to Godhead, then we have to stay in this material world, which is an abode of all kinds of miseries. And even before, when one goes to one of these just unspeakable hells, the world itself manifests so many hellish situations. Hellish situation. Just this war going on in Europe now, and you see about it, and the war crimes that are being performed daily. It's just unspeakable. And so, what's the takeaway from all this? If you don't have any access to kind of literature and the understanding and this precious knowledge that's been given to us, then you try to make solutions. Try to somehow mitigate the misery, or escape the misery, or at least forget the misery that's sure to come. And this is the solution for the total materialist. It's no solution at all, because first of all, you're insuring yourself with thousands of years of unspeakable suffering just by being ignorant, going to the supermarket and buying meat and just cooking it up. This is a regular course of events. It never occurs to you, and nor did you ever hear that this is sinful. I remember when vegetarianism started to become more popular, a lot of it in the 60s and 70s, New Age, and it was all on the question of health. And there was also some sense, that gradually became more prominent of kindness toward the animals. That's also there, which is within the realm of what we're talking about here. But mostly it was just yeah, eat this, don't eat this for your health, which is fine. But then it was like, yeah, I tried vegetarianism, but then I went back. In other words, there's really no sense that of the relationship we have with all of these other living entities that are on this planet. And that our philosophy is basically, ahimsa. It's not absolute ahimsa, but that's the default, unless there's some righteous battle going on, like the Battle of Kurukshetra or other thing. Violence has its place in order to enforce the law and to protect. The very word Kshatriya. Bob, you know what Kshatriya means? What the import is? Yeah, I know. So you'll learn it today, and you won't forget it. Chat is harm, pain. Triya is protect. Those who protect from harm, the innocent. Prabhupada mentions one should make sure that feed the old men, the children, and the poor. Generally, the women are also put into that. In other words, they're also in need of protection and in need of maintenance and like that. So the idea is that society, you can't read Prabhupada's books very long before he talks about varnashram. And Krishna himself talks about it in the Bhagavad Gita. He says, I created these four divisions of society. And what's the whole point? Varnashram in and of itself does not assure going back to Godhead, perfection of life. But it is a way of organizing society, if everyone is following their dharma, in which Krishna can be put into the center. The perfection of varnashram is to please Krishna. That's what we learn in the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, 1st canto. Atak pumbir dvija shrestha varnashrama vibhagasa swanustitasya dharmasa sangsiddhir haritoshanam. Atak Pumbir is speaking to the sages at Naimisharanya, Sutta Goswami. Dvija Shrestha, the best of the twice born. This division of Varnashrama Vibhagasha means the divisions of the Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. There's also the spiritual division that he doesn't mention in this particular verse. Su anustitasya dharmasa. If one is very nicely following one's own position, performing the duties and everything, the perfection of that will be seen if Krishna is pleased. That has to be there. Krishna has to. Sangsiddhir haritoshanam. That's the perfection. So it's not just some hierarchy, it's a social hierarchy in which the people at the top can lord it over the bottom, which it's become perverted in India because it's just by birth. It's not just by birth. It's according to quality. You read the Bhagavad Gita in the 18th chapter, and it's all guna and karma. It's the qualities you have, and you're acting according to those qualities. Just being born in a Brahmin's family is not enough. You have a better chance. You may have some genetic, you're more intelligent, and if you're trained, and you develop the qualities and you perform the activities of a Brahmin, then you can be seen as a Brahmin. Otherwise, it's Brahma Bandhu, a friend of a Brahmin. But that means you're not you haven't lived up to your heritage, so to speak. So that's just a formula. But the whole point is to put Krishna in the middle. That real dharma, which we learn in the Bhagavad Gita and especially Bhagavatam, means that activity which engenders pure devotion to Krishna. Anything else is kaitava dharma. That's the very, very beginning of Bhagavatam. 2nd verse of the whole Bhagavatam. Dharma projita kaitavo tra. This word atra is used 3 times in this verse, meaning here in the Bhagavatam, this is this. So the first thing it says is that in this Bhagavatam, we kick out all cheating religions. And what is a cheating religion? Anything that's self-motivated, that doesn't involve developing and uncovering one's pure love for Krishna. So that's what goes for on the name of Dharma, and goes in the name of even religion. Religions that are materially motivated are kaitava dharma. Just to go to God and pray for enough money, a better job, or the health of my child, or whatever like that. That's Krishna said it's good in Bhagavad Gita. He gives it's good. These people are sukriti. They're pious people. Chatur vidha bhajante mam jana sukritan ojana. Then he gives 4 categories, and it makes perfect sense. Arto, jigyasu, artarti, jnanicha, bhadatarshaba. Arta means a vast majority of people. You go to church, mosque, temple in order to pray to God to relieve some trouble in your life. That's arta, you see. There's also, then there's also like a subcategory, artarti, which means those who want some money. That's also a trouble if you're poverty-stricken, you know. And then there's a better category if you're actually curious about God, jigyasu. This is very good. And the best is the jnani, one who goes specifically to attain knowledge of the Lord and knows that, you know, something about what that knowledge leads to. So Krishna praises that, and then a few verses later he says, Bahunam jamanamante jnanamam papadite. That when it is really knowledge, real knowledge surrenders unto me. So we're trying to come to that platform by these classes, the books we're meant to read as well as distribute, and attain knowledge of Krishna. And that curiosity, that desire to know more and more about God is a qualification for advancement. It's a qualification for advancement. If one is not interested or curious, and this is said, Prabhupada said, this is why all the churches and the temples are dying. They're vacant. He said he saw so many in England, you know, in Europe. You know. Churches are there, but there's some people are giving up. They're enamored with the technology and the internet and all of these things. You know, that means that they failed to spark that interest. This was Prabhupada's genius. This was his great success. That he found the means, even in this alien environment, where people had no idea about anything, basically, that he found a subset, a small group of people who were interested in this, who were willing to hear him, willing to chant. As soon as you begin chanting, immediately Krishna notices someone within, and he starts giving you the intelligence by which you can come to him, you know. So, so this is a very sobering chapter, needless to say. You know, it's an important chapter, and devotees are, you know, this idea of prasadam is so important because you're released from sin. Whereas if you just cook for yourself, even if it's vegetarian, then it's still sinful, and you're still going to suffer. The whole idea is that everything that's simply self-centered is covering your consciousness more and more by ignorance, and you're also undoubtedly going to become harmful to others. Because you see the world as your place of exploitation, and that includes other people, and includes the animals, and oh, these insects are bothering me, you know, just annihilate them. And you see the reaction. They have, what is it called? Roundup? You've heard of that, Roundup, of it, right? This is a pesticide, vast pesticide. But it attains, you probably know, there's glyphosate, which is also poisonous to human beings. So it gets on the food. It's very widely used. And they've done tests. Everybody has it in their body by now. We all have it. And it doesn't degrade. So this is called, I love this verse. You probably heard me chant it before. This is one of Prahlad Maharaj's prayers to Nrsingadev. It's full of all kinds of wonderful instruction for us. So this one, he very accurately describes the material world and the material entanglement in 3 lines. In the last line, he gives a solution. So he says, Yasmat priya priyaviyoga sayoga janma. Yeah. Yasmat priya priyaviyoga sayoga janma shokagnina sakadayonisha dahyamana. Dukkaushadam tadapi dukkam atadhyaham bhuman brahmami vadame tavadasya yogam. So what is he saying? He's analyzing the material situation. Yasmat, from this phenomenon that he's going to explain. Priya, apriya, viyoga, sayoga. So priya are those things which are dear to us, like our body, like our health, like our money, family, all these different things that we establish attachments to and make up things that, you know, make us happy in this world. Those are priya. Who can deny it? So the priya is viyoga, eventually, taken away from you by the force of time. Eventually, the body gets old and dies, obviously, but often way before that, even in any age, you can lose your health. Or get some terrible disease or whatever, obviously. And there's a million other things. You know, people establish bonds, you know, man and woman, you know, on very flimsy, just on the basis of physical attraction. But that can easily be changed, you know, just by the change of circumstances. And that's broken. And it's so painful, you know, then people commit suicide, you know. So this is one source of misery. The things that are dear are taken away. And the opposite, obviously, is apriya sanyoga, sayoga. Things that are abominable to you are forced upon you. Like this climate change. You know, we're so fortunate here. I mean, the weather is cool, basically. Oh, it got into the mid-70s, you know. Kind of, you just look at the newscast. Oh, it's like 108 somewhere in New Hampshire, you know, or in Canada last year. It went into the 120s in Vancouver. People just died. It's insane. Now, you may say there's anthropogenic climate change. We won't get into that, but it's happening. It's a result, you know, of sinful activity. So that's what can you do about that? Well, you're peacefully living. We lived here for so many years on the bank of this river, you know. But now, the rain is pouring down like anything, you know, and the flood's there, and my home is swept away. People are killed. The drought. We're in the middle of a drought here. Soon we may not be able to water that backyard so much. They haven't said anything to us yet? Yeah, here in San Diego, they plan for it because this is really a desert. And they've done all kinds of mitigation things so that they haven't come. But it may come. So this is the nature. Yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga janma. Born of this is yasmat priya apriya viyoga sayoga janma shok agnina. The fire of lamentation. The fire of lamentation. Oh, my child died. You're so attached, you know, lamentation. Oh, my boyfriend left me. Oh, lamentation. Can't get enough to eat. Lamentation. These are dear things that are no longer available. They're gone. It's ripped away from you. It can be a lifelong scar. PTSD. People go through these traumas and they never get over them. You know, this is material life. He's painting a picture. And not just in human life. Sakaliyona shuddhayam. I'm the soul. I've been burning in different species in this same thing. Even the birds and the bees, they have their ideals. Oh, I got my nest. That's cool. You know, we're good. There's my mate. And then they're taken away. The Prabhupada tells the story of the pigeon. I think it's in the Bhagavatam. The pigeon and family of pigeons. They loved each other so much, you know. And then they went out to the forest to get something to feed their child, you know. Meanwhile, the hunter comes along, you know, and he sees this little nest with a bunch of little pigeons in it. Says, "Oh, here's my lunch," you know. This net is thrown, you know, and they start squealing, and then the parents come back, and the male, you know, he's male, so he wants to help, so he runs together. He gets caught. He's in the net now. Or maybe it's the other way around. The female's going, yeah, it's female, because oh, my children, he's caught. And the male says, what am I going to do? Everything is gone. He also gets caught. You know, it's a terrible story. They're devastated. So everything was going nicely, you know, and suddenly it's disaster. So this is shokagnina, the fire of lamentation, in all different species. Now, in the human form of life, Prahlad Maharaj explains in the third line, we have various remedies for these. Dukkha aushadam, herbal remedies for all the dukkha, or any kind of remedy. And I like to give the example of, oh, I'm good. I got health insurance. Even if disease comes, you know, I'm covered, you know. That in itself can be a misery. You know, the health insurance, oh, so many co-pays, I can't afford it. Oh my God, they give me the wrong, you know, medicine, or I got this medicine, this one, they conflict. So dukkha aushadam tadapi dukkam. So the remedies themselves are sources of dukkha, of misery. You know, just like the cars, we take them for granted now. But in the early 20th century, is when they first started to become big. 1904, the Model T, you heard about it. So there was a big push for it to develop these vehicles, because they had these big cities that had developed, but they're all horse-drawn carriages going on in there, in Chicago and everywhere. And they're creating a huge mess, had to be cleaned up every day, and people, and oh my God, So, now we can just drive these nice clean cars, So that was one of the reasons. It was a Duke Aushadam, developed. And go to a distant place, so I got to have my car, So now look at what we have. The Duke Aushadam, where we can go to a long way away quickly and come back, how convenient it is, And then I quote, lament, I have an old car now. I inherited this car in 2005 from one devotee who died here. And so it's a good car. It's a Toyota, and everything. But every time I get driven home, like 2-block drive, and on Monday nights, I give class, and then we have a kirtan, and usually Dharnidhar is here, and he drives me home, and we get a little association, Well, he's got a very modern car, and he's got that wonderful camera in the back, so you go back, you don't have to worry about hitting everything. I don't have that. My car doesn't have that, so I have to look back. I almost hit one guy one time. I was in the parking lot in Sprouts. It was nighttime, it was dark, and he was just walking. He'd shopped, and he was walking right behind me. He didn't think, and I was on, and I started going back slow, and so I smashed on the brake. I finally noticed him. He was right behind me. I said, "Oh my God," because I didn't have that camera. So I have the car, but now I got to lament I don't have the camera. I mean, I'm not lamenting, but the point is, you're never satisfied. So it's dukkha shadam tadapi dukkam, that the remedies turn out to be worse dukkha's than anything. And then he gives the analysis of what's the source of it all, atadhyaham. Now this has two meanings. I did some research. And Prabhupada translates it according to certain commentators. It's all based on atadhyaham, meaning I'm thinking of something I'm not. I'm thinking on this body, Or the other meaning is, I'm seeing all this misery and this everything, but I'm thinking it's something else. In other words, I'm not understanding that it's all because I'm identifying with the body, but I'm thinking it's something that I can solve and like that. So Prahlad Maharaj, of course, our Mahajan, he gives the solution at the end. He's speaking to Nrsingadev. This is a prayer to Lord Nrsingadev, little child Prahlad, And of course, it's Komal Nrsinga. Now he's very gentle, he's not angry anymore. Demons are all around there, they're dead, So he says, Bhuman, great one, Bhuman Brahmami Varameta Vadasya Yogam. Please, this wandering soul, Brahmami, Bhuman Brahmami Varameta, speak to me and teach me your Dasya Yoga, your Bhakti Yoga. This is a solution, which he's teaching us. So, this is, the Bhagavatam is always teaching us this. This is all throughout. Showing us the difficulty of this material world, the impossibility of finding any permanent happiness here. It's lesson number 1. You're a spirit soul. You're not the body. The body is eventually going to die. You're going to be reborn. That's your main problem, not your little material problems you're trying to solve. That's just Maya. That's just Maya's trick. They try to convince you that there's no God, there's only you in the world, and then let's eke out a little pleasure here. That's her job, to keep you bewildered, deluded. But as soon as we approach Krishna, and in the proper way, through the proper channels, and especially in this stage, begin chanting his name, then the strong curtain of illusion starts to lift. And you see, and the most valuable thing is that you become interested in God. That jigyasa, that is so important, that curiosity, atato brahma jigyasa, the very first aphorism. You're a human being. You should be interested in the absolute truth, not just in this sense gratification, which is fatal for you. So that's the injunction. And Bhagavatam is the natural commentary. Prabhupada likes to point out, by the same author. And so it begins with the first words of the second aphorism. The first aphorism says, atato brahma jigyasa. Now, therefore. How do you begin a book with the word therefore? Because it's the Vedanta Sutra. It's the sutras, the aphorisms that describe the end of knowledge. You've come through all the different Vedas, and now here's the end of the whole thing. So they said, now therefore, being a human being, inquire into Brahman. What is that Brahman? Janmad yasya yataha. That from which everything has, or from whom everything has emanated. And not only emanated, the Adi, every syllable counts in these sutras because they're very terse. Janmad yasya yataha. Adi is maintenance and destruction. So that from which everything has emanated, who maintains everything and finally destroys everything, that's what you should be interested in. That's the Brahman. And what does the Bhagavatam tell you? Right in the first verse. Describes Krishna in detail. Krishna who enlightened Brahma in the heart. Krishna who knows everything, who's created everything. All of it describes who's sitting in his spiritual world without any touch of Maya. And who has created this world, which is so skillfully created that you get bewildered in thinking that it's all like a mirage, that there's some happiness here. It's all in the first verse. I just heard a lecture, Prabhupada explaining, because he's riffing on this Bhagavat Saptaha. You've heard of that, 7-day readings of Bhagavatam. So this has become prominent in India. I don't know how much prominent it is today, but Prabhupada, when he came over, was very prominent. And you would get charlatans who knew Sanskrit, who could read Bhagavatam. Of course, what do they read? How much can you read in 7 days? Well, let's go straight to the heart of it. We'll read the rasa dance. So people would come, oh, we're going to hear about the rasa dance. But it's bogus. Obviously, the source of that is the 7-day reading, recitation to Maharaj Parikshit. But he knew he was going to die in 7 days. We have Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya, the injunction in the 2nd chapter, to always hear it, to hear regularly. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. And not just the book Bhagavat, but the person Bhagavat too. We serve the book Bhagavat by hearing, we serve the person Bhagavat by hearing from the Bhagavatam also, and especially the translation Prabhupada, and by so many other services. So that constant service, regular service to both Bhagavats, what is the result? This is the one I chant every morning when I do the class. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. That your abhadras, all of this illusion that I could be happy in this world, and the ignorance and the fears and all that's in our heart, becomes reduced almost to nil. A high percentage, not completely. That's why I said nashta prayeshu. Prayeshu means a lot of it. Prabhupada said maybe 50%, 60%. Nityam bhagavata, by that service, which we were meant to perform all the time. Bhagavad Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki. So one's bhakti, one's devotion to Krishna becomes naishtiki, firmly fixed, which is the 4th stage that Rupa Goswami describes. First comes a little faith, right? And the faith, I got this book on the street, a very nice person, and here's the address. Let me go check it out. It was pretty interesting. I'd like to learn more. That's the faith. Not full faith, not absolute perfect faith, but Prabhupada says interest and respect. Respect. You come and respectfully want to hear. That's so valuable. That's the beginning of your way out of this conundrum in the material world. And then when you come into a genuine group of devotees and you're hearing naturally, then you're becoming purified. And you become curious about what is all this about? What's the process? Or even without, okay, like the Gita class we have. Oh, you can stay for the kirtan? Yeah, I'll stay for the kirtan. Then immediately you're chanting. So you're, in other words, Krishna, he reaches out. He helps us as soon as we show some interest and some genuine faith and interest. So that's what Prahlad Maharaj is saying. And then all of these descriptions are meant to make us very sober about wanting to get out of this material world. And also should make us empathetic and sympathetic to those who have no understanding and are heading toward these hells. To somehow give them the book, give them the name, give them prasadam, which is, every one of those is so purifying that may have become an ashasti. Even if someone just begins a little bit in Krishna consciousness, that can save him from the greatest danger, which is losing the human form, going down into these. Prabhupada explained, well, how does it work? Well, a soul in a human body goes to one of these hells to perform some grievous sin, and then it seems like so many years. He says it's so many years, but you're in your subtle body, and you're suffering, unbelievable, and gradually your consciousness gets more and more covered. This is your only defense, is to dull. And when you're ready for your next body, then you go into it. Dog, cat, or something lower like that. And then you come back up. No more sin. You're not sinning. They don't sin. They're just burning off, and come back up. So, knowing that this is the truth, we should feel so much gratitude we've been saved from this. Even if we're just neophytes, just beginning, just chanting Hare Krishna, you're not going to these hells. And we should be very, very eager and empathetic to try to save others who are this is their fate. And the power of the holy name, that'll be explained in the next chapter. The next chapter is about Ajamil. What was his reaction, Maharaj Purkit? How can they be saved? He's such a great Vaishnava. How can they be saved? So, Shukadevi gave the test. Said, you have to atone, like it said, if you don't atone. And he explained some of these atone, what is that, tapasa, brahmacharya, of course, which we practice also, but just tapasya, Brahma, so many sacrifices, you can perform. But what's the problem with that? Who remembers, with this atonement?
The desire to sin is still there.
Yeah, it doesn't really get to the root of the problem, which is your desire to sin. And eventually that you go back to it. It doesn't work. It can mitigate, but it doesn't really cure your problem. You stay in the material world, and you're bound to sin again. So then he tells the story of Ajamil, Sukadev, how he was a Brahmin. He became so sinful. He was definitely going to hell, and the Yamadutas were all waiting to drag him out. But he had the good sense of naming his youngest boy. He's 80 years old. He has a 4-year-old boy. Not the Vedic culture. But he said, Narayan. He named him Narayan. Now, it doesn't say this, but you would think, well, maybe he had so many other children. But anyway, he named his youngest son Narayan. And when those Yamadutas came, he was, terrified. This is a thing in hospitals. This terminal restlessness. Has anyone heard of that? This is, terminal restlessness is because people are starting to see those Yamadutas. Yeah, when they're about to die. Give them a sedative. They put you out, which is the worst thing. But that doesn't really help. Eventually you face it. So we want to be fully conscious when we leave. We want to be chanting Hare Krishna, surrounded by devotees. And we've had experience with that. I participated in that. That's the most auspicious way. But Ajamil, he chanted that one name, Narayan. It wasn't offensively. He wasn't chanting in order to mitigate his. He was just chanting because he was calling out to his son. Basically, it was in other words, it wasn't offensive. And right away, the Vishnudutas came and stopped the Yamadutas. As a happy ending, And anyway, the chapter is very illuminating. And finally, Yamaraj, who's after all a Mahajan, he's one of this is his main speech here. His main appearance in the Bhagavatam as a teacher was that he explains the glories of the holy name to his dutas who didn't know about it. And he gives a wonderful verse that I always remember. I don't remember the Sanskrit. That whatever you do, don't approach anyone who's ever chanted the name of Krishna. Don't approach them. Be careful. So that's okay. And I remember, I'll say this again. Many of you heard this before, but some of you didn't. That when that book was printed, because I was there in L.A. when it came out. After the 5th canto was part of the marathon, and the next book that came out was the 6th canto, of course. And the first volume was so filled with this instruction about the holy name. That they printed many more. They made it, 100,000, 50,000, because of book distribution, the devotees were going out and distributing like that, hoping. And the picture on the cover, there's a story you probably know. Someone saw the picture on the cover, or the back cover, I think, of Ajamil being pulled out, or almost being pulled out, being threatened. And someone saw that and it turned white in some airport somewhere. He says, I saw them. Because he bought the book. Anyway, it's so this chapter, obviously there aren't that many commentaries. That's why there aren't so many purports, and we'll be through it in a couple of days most. But it's very sobering for being grateful for what we've been saved from, and being impelled to try to save others by giving them the knowledge, the prasadam, the books, and the holy name. And so we're agents, not of Yamaraj, but of Vishnu. We're also Vishnu Dutas, aren't we? Krishna Dutas? Meant to be. Okay. Thank you very much for hearing. Any comments, questions? Where are our mics? They're all sitting. Oh, there they are. And anyone have any comments, questions? Okay. There. Dr. Saul.
Thank you for the nice class, Trader Prabhu. I had a question. So, I guess we understand that when Vishnu wakes up from his slumber.
You mean Mahavishnu?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It says that, I can't really speak. It says that the whole entire material manifestation comes back into him, in a sense. Like he just inhaled it, right?
I'm not sure you got it right. He's awake.
Yeah.
And then when he breathes in,
Yeah,
everything is destroyed.
Yeah.
So Prabhupada says, just imagine the caliber.
I was wondering, when that happens, do the jivas, do they go to their destinations when they're inside Mahavishnu in that sense?
All the jivas enter his body.
And then from there,
and they're suspended. They're not doing anything. They're not dreaming either. But
if I'm committing so many sinful activities, I could just wait until I go and not face my not face my reactions, because I'll be in Mahavishnu.
There's a period there, but when you come out again,
I'll be waiting for me.
If there's still some more time left in the hell, you'll be back in hell.
Oh, okay. So I'll just be put back in my place.
Yeah, you don't get any progress just from being in Mahavishnu.
Oh,
it's just a suspended animation, and you're in deep, deep sleep, and that's it. But everything is there. Your karma, is still present in your consciousness, although it's not active then. But when you come out, then you're going to fulfill your karma again.
And another one, I just read right now, I guess in the Gita it says that we're already in, or are we in Mahavishnu, or are we in his energy?
No, we're not within Mahavishnu now.
Yeah, because he says that I am everything's in me, and or something like that.
Yeah, well, Krishna's saying that at the beginning of the 9th chapter.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but there he's talking about his expansions as energy, and that's in everything is within. But I'm not there. It's like a paradox, right? Because he personally is in Goloka Vrindavan, and so nothing in material there's no tinge of materiality there. But by his expansions, both as the energy and also as super soul, he's within everything. So everything is within him in the sense of it's all within his energy. And he's within everything because he is the material energy, Bhoomarapa Olanovaya, and he's also the super soul within every atom. So where is he not? This is verse, Eko Pasauda Chayatum Jagadanda Koting Yakchaktirasi Jagadan Yada Yarantak Andantarastapanaman Chayantarastan Govindamadi Purushantamaham Bhajami. So that Eko, that's the one, that's Mahavishnu. Vichayatum creates everything. Jagadanda Koting, the millions and tens of millions of universes, there's a lot of them. And all of them are within him because they're all within his energy. But then it's described as Andantarasta Paramanu. Paramanu means supremely small. That's a word for atom. But then within all those atoms, he also enters. So everything is within him, and he's within everything. You see that? As through the expansions. This is the Govindam. It all goes back to Govinda. This is the Lord I worship. Who could be greater than that? Bhakti Tyler. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just two things. One is that it'd be nice if we made a pamphlet or a short book just on the hellish planets.
Think so?
Because for two preaching reasons. One is, remember we were at the Rath Yatra, there's those certain Christian with the signs, you're going to hell. we meet up. Yeah, you are. Check it out. You want to look at all these hells? Because usually people are so combative to them, right, and shocked. Where you're like, yeah, you got it.
Why a pamphlet? Let's make a big poster, huh? With
And then
illustrations.
also near-death experience people too. Then I didn't think about that. Did you see any of these levels? Okay, well, it's real. There's a little more to the story. Here, give them the heavenly planets then. And
We'll think about it.
And then, so I was talking with Rajaraj. We were driving home from LA, and he had just taken initiation from Radhanath Swami, and he was talking about the guru can take your karma at the time of initiation, but he was saying I think they can also take most of those desire seeds for sin too, because he was saying you clear the field and there's these holes in the field that are your desire to sin, and the guru can actually fill almost all of them except for your desire to commit Vaishnava Aparada or a couple others. Do you know much about the guru actually?
I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. The details of that. But yeah, it is, I mean, Prabhupada told us that the guru takes the karma, and also he said, and therefore, be strict and follow the principles. Because it all, because you're doing injury, And even he said, I have to come back to deliver my disciples who fell down, So it's such an impetus to be serious about devotional service, especially.
So without speculating, then what do you know is the best way to deal with the desire seed to sin? If you're dealing with that, what do you do to root that up?
Well,
just devotional service?
I hesitate to recommend anything beyond really good chanting of Hare Krishna.
Okay.
Yeah. You see, this is one of the things that I noticed of the history, because I go way back, and when I joined, I was fortunate to join at a time when still there was a daily Sankirtan. Everyone's supposed to go out on Harinam Sankirtan every day. It was like 3 hours. That was the standard. And I mean, I was loving it. So I would go out in the morning. I would work. I was very carefully filling the incense bottles with the oils. They used to have an incense business, the Spiritual Sky incense, and we had an office there in New York, and that was my morning duty. Okay, Hare Krishna. And then in the afternoon, we did take a nice lunch. We had some of the greatest cooks at that time in this, right there in New York, lunch. And then Harinam, jumping on the street. We go to Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, in front of this church, believe it or not, and there were these steps, and we'd have Harinam. So it was a very blissful time, and temple was filled, and morning and evening program, more kirtans, it was just like that. And gradually, things developed, and we went to LA, and there was a book production. I was no longer going out every day. Of course, there was morning and evening programs. A lot of chanting. But one thing I noticed is that there just wasn't as much time because there was so many other programs going on for daily. We used to have a weekly Harinam, Maha Harinam, Saturday night. For sure everyone would go. So. Unless you get really serious about chanting in your rounds, and if you're preaching all the time, that's another thing, book distribution. But not everyone was doing that, and so it became harder to maintain that ecstatic Krishna consciousness all the time that came from Harinam Sankirtan. I mean, Prabhupada once said in a letter, that the Sankirtan must go on, and he meant the Harinam Sankirtan. You have to go out. There was this one devotee who was working on the press, and he said, literally the press. They had a literal printing press in Brooklyn. Yeah, this whole idea of it was starting up. Things were starting up. And he wrote to Prabhupada, and he said, Prabhupada, with all the work in the press, I don't have time to to go to classes and all these other things, So Prabhupada said, that's okay. You follow the four regular principles, chant the 16 rounds, and go out on Harinam Sankirtan. That has to be there. That, he said, is essential. Leave it because he was working directly on book production. But that's is a key element is the chanting. Be there for the kirtans that we do have. And chant with great attention and enthusiasm, and take advantage of any Harinams that are there, and study and preach, to quote the Shastra. It's also potent in helping us to curb the strong desires that are there, in especially youthful bodies, So that's, and read, the third chapter, end of the third chapter, the whole thing is, it's custom made for us. What is it that impels us to do things we know is against our best interests? Kama. It's material desire, sex desire, but any powerful desire. which is never satisfied, burns like fire, covers our knowledge, which is so dangerous. Our knowledge is what we treasure to keep us. So eventually he gets, in this little section, he says, okay, here's the hierarchy. Now there's the super soul, the intelligence, the mind, and the senses. So now your lower sense is controlling your higher sense. The senses are, that the famous, running in the chariot down the mountain road. So the senses are running after the sense objects. The mind is, also being controlled by that. And the intelligence is like looking on in the chariot and aghast, and the soul is just, victimized by it. So we have to let the super soul purify our intelligence so it becomes strong enough so we can control the mind and senses. Let the higher self control the lower self. Last verse of the third chapter. Knowing oneself to be transcendental to the intelligence, even control the lower self by the higher self, and just conquer over this enemy of lust. So this is, by getting a taste for Krishna more and more, that will sublimate, these lower desires. Gradually, vairagya will be more feasible. Hare Krishna. Bob, you're on, and then we have to.
Thank you. Well, when I was in high school, I was riding in the back of this car, and the guy driving pulls in this muddy field and starts getting kind of crazy, and I remember sitting back there totally helpless, thinking, this guy's going to crash this car.
And then when you got to Bhagavad Gita, you opened it, and there's that picture. Right?
Yeah. And as a matter of fact, we did crash the car. Not bad, but anyways, I wanted to kind of bounce off Tyler here. And Prabhupada was so intelligent because idle hands are the devil's workshop. We're so fortunate to have this establishment and have the mercy of being allowed to come here, and we're given the opportunity to do service.
Yeah.
And it's taken me a long time to realize how valuable it really, and I probably have no glimpse of its true value, but people out there will give you service and just to benefit themselves and manipulate and take advantage of. And I wanted to mention one more thing. I'm going to bounce off Saul. We were having a Bhakti chakra class once, and we were speaking about the sloka where the universes emanate when Lord Vishnu exhales. And a buddy of mine was there and visiting, and he interrupted the class. He goes, I know this is inappropriate, but you guys, I got it. I can't hold it in. He pulls out an article out of his pocket from some Science Digest. It's only published a few times a year. It's very, very respected, and it said, scientists have determined that when universes manifest, they manifest in the form of bubbles.
Really? Yeah.
Very.
They're getting a glimpse of the truth. Hare Krishna. Okay, I think we better adjourn. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, we have 5 devotees on the Zoom. So one of them has a question. Maitreya Prabhu has a question.
What should I do?
Do you have time for one question?
Okay, yes, go ahead.
All right, it's a quick one. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna addresses Krishna as Madhusudana. And there's a misunderstanding, as I've actually heard devotees giving class, that think that there are different personalities of Godhead, as though we're polytheists. And he said, actually, Krishna didn't kill Madhu. But of course, he did in his form of Hayagriva, and he mentioned that. So if you could just comment on the fact that, like Prabhupada said, the High Court judge in his chambers, he's addressed as Your Honor. Mm-hmm. But when he goes, his grandson rides him around like a horse and calls him Papi, but he's the same person. So Krishna has, as Lord Chaitanya says, unlimited numbers of names. He has unlimited numbers of ways he manifests him, but he's the one absolute truth, one personality of Godhead. There's not different personalities of Godhead.
We are definitely monotheistic. This is, we have to expand, so much in Krishna consciousness is expanding, trying to expand our understanding of what actual God actually means. Because if you grow up in the West, it's kind of a crippled understanding, old man up in the clouds. And so, yes, Krishna is one, but he can expand unlimitedly. Both as, Matsyavatar and Varaha and the Shringadev, who are, look completely different from Krishna himself, but it's still Krishna. But he has that power. Or he can expand as 16,108 kind of identical Krishnas in Dwarka. And this is a different category of expansion. So we have to, we can't try to impose our misconceptions on Krishna. Madhusudana means he who killed the Madhu demon, and he calls him that because he can kill my doubts. Right? That's explained in the purport and the commentaries. So we shouldn't think it's a different personality, but it's the same personality who's so powerful he can manifest other forms and show a whole different array of powers and forms, but it's still the same person. But we're different persons. We're eternally separate from Krishna because we're one with and separate from him, but we are a different tattva. We're energy and he's the energetic. It's a big topic. We can't come into the whole thing, but don't be confused. They're different names of the same person. All glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu, for nice class. Dandavad Pranam. Prabhu, I just want to let you know there are 28 people watching this class right now.
Now I'm really going viral. I need to get a vaccine.